Welcome back to GTD. It's a very exciting episode. It's our first baseball episode of the year, of the season. The Cubs-Dodgers kickoff what MLB is calling opening day, but it's not really opening day, but it is real regular season games. They just happen to be in Japan and at like 5 o'clock in the morning Central Time. I will be up because I'm a disgusting Cubs fan.
I will not.
Who lets these next 162 games make or break my entire week. But besides that,
that's a long week.
Yeah, tell me about it. It's been a long 20 years.
Wow, poor you, World Series and everything.
I know, it's great. But anyways, we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about our division winners and just our playoffs in general with our wild cards and seeding and all that. But yeah, we'll just get right into it. We'll start with the American League division winners.
All right.
I like to start there.
All right, I'm going to start in the AL East, and it's going to be the Boston Red Sox for me. You look at the top of this lineup, Jarren Duran, Alex Bregman, Rafael Devers, I think is a lethal 1, 2, 3 at the top of the lineup. And there's depth in this lineup too. You have Trevor Story. Can he return to kind of what we know Trevor Story can be? I'm not sure, but I like Rafaela in center. I think he has upside. Tristan Casas, we know, has the power. And then this rotation looks disgusting on paper. Garrett Crochet, Tanner Houck, you have Walker Buehler. So if Walker Buehler can get back to Walker Buehler, that is incredible. Brian Bayo was very solid for a lot of last year. Lucas Giolito, I know, is not the player he once was as well, but still, that's a very solid deep rotation. Then they've acquired Quinn Priester as a prospect too. I think he has great upside. Then in the bullpen, some hit or miss guys here. You have Aroldis Chapman, Adam Ottavino, some very up and down guys, Justin Wilson as well, but then some lockdowns. I think Liam Hendricks and Garrett Whitlock you can rely on to get some good stuff out of them, and I'm worried about the Yankees being able to hit consistently outside of Aaron Judge. I think if Aaron Judge stubs his toe again, the Yankees are absolutely cooked. You obviously have the Garrett Cole injury as well, and then as far as the Orioles, I'm not sure the Orioles are experienced enough yet to make this work over a full season. I like the veteran leadership of the Red Sox, so I'm going to have them winning the AL East.
I don't hate the Red Sox. I'm glad you just mentioned how young the Orioles are because that's my pick. They're a young core. I think their pitching will struggle comparatively, but I think they'll hit, man. I mean, their infield. I mean, their catcher, their infield. They just know how to hit. They have some guys on there who can just be like Tyler O'Neill is one of those guys who if he can just kind of put the team on his shoulder and not be the best player on the team, but just do well enough. Kind of like you saw Justin Turner with the Dodgers in those years.
Yeah, you wonder too if Adley Rutschman can bounce back as a hitter at the plate too. He's been such a great catcher, but if you can get like the early version of him you saw, obviously you know what you're getting from Gunnar Henderson with the massive power.
Yeah,
so.
And I think they're gonna have to make some trades for pitching before the deadline.
Yeah.
I do think I was really close with them the Yankees, but I think with Garrett Cole going down, I just think it gave them because this division is going to be tight. I think it's going to be a three-way race.
Yeah.
No matter what between the Orioles, Red Sox, and Yankees, and I think just losing Garrett Cole that's enough to bump you down a spot.
I definitely agree with that.
So that's the reason I have the Orioles coming out ahead. In my AL Central, I'm going with a pick that you popularized at the beginning of last year and talked about the entire year until it almost,
It almost came in at the last second.
I haven't even looked at your pick. I don't know if you're going with the same people. Probably. The Tigers. I think they're the favorite, and they for good reason. Skubal, incredible year last year.
He is so good.
They only added pitching with like Flaherty and guys like that. So I think their pitching is going to be great. And I think, in the Central, I don't think the Central is going to be that tough. I think the Royals are going to hit decent, but I think the pitching will shine enough for. And I think Colt Keith will have a good year. I think there are some younger guys, and then you have Javier Baez if he decides to show up.
They're looking to play Spencer Torkelson right this year and DH Kerry Carpenter.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I think their hitting's gonna be just enough. Riley Green will hit.
Riley Green's so good.
But Javier Baez is one of those guys. So if he can just hit.
Which he can't.
Half of what he did.
He can't.
In his
he can't.
prime years.
He's so bad now.
We'll see.
I'm going with the Royals. I know you might not have expected that. Yeah, because I was so on the Tigers last year, but I think this Royals pitching staff is going to really improve this season. Seth Lugo was incredible for most of last year. Cole Reagans, I think, is an ace in the making. Michael Lorenzen, Michael Wacha will both get you at least solid innings. And then this lineup, if Vinny Pasquantino can stay healthy this year, I know he couldn't for a lot of last year. If you can get just even 70% of what Salvador Perez can be, you acquired Jonathan India to play second, where that was a massive black hole in the lineup for you last year. India's not a world beater, but he's going to be at least solid in that spot. You've gotten good stuff from Michael Garcia in the past, MJ Melendez, and then obviously you have the superstar that is Bobby Witt Jr. at short. So I think either the Royals or the Tigers could win this division. I know everyone's forgetting about the Guardians, which means they'll probably win it again anyway through devil magic or whatever. But I think that this Royals team is really built well. I think if the problem for me with the Tigers is if Tarek Skubal gets injured, they are absolutely cooked. They have no chance to win this division if Skubal gets injured, and he's only had one fully healthy season. So I don't know if you can bank on that, and so for that reason, I'm going with the Royals.
Yeah, I don't know. Perez was the one kind of caveat with me as far as because I had the Royals and Tigers as well, and I was like, Perez, he's getting up there, man. I just don't think he can really command like the team like he's been able to. He'll definitely be a leader in the dugout, that's for sure.
The thing is, he doesn't have to shoulder the lineup load anymore because if Pasquantino's on, Bobby Witt's your real catalyst. You can get stuff from MJ Melendez, Michael Garcia as well. So I think they're fairly well rounded.
Just gotta stay healthy. Yeah.
Yeah. On to the AL West, I have the Texas Rangers. I am begging for healthy DeGrom. Okay. I know it has not happened in what feels like years because it is years, but the rest of this the rest of the rotation does have upside too. Nathan Eovaldi's a good pitcher. Tyler Mahle went on, is great as well. John Gray, since being freed from Coors Field, is a good pitcher. And then this bullpen, I think, is a potential weakness. You have Jesse Chavez, who will end up back on the Braves at the trade deadline because that's just what happens every year. Then you start looking, you have Hobie Milner, Robert Garcia, Chris Martin. That's the one weakness of this team for me is the bullpen. But then you start looking at this lineup. Jonah Heim can give you good stuff at catcher. Jake Berger is going to hit 230 but hit bombs. Yeah. Marcus Semien and Josh Young and Corey Seager. You know the upside with all three of those guys. Then you move to the outfield. Evan Carter is a great defensive player, and then you maybe DH Wyatt Langford, play him in the outfield. I think either one of those would be great, but I think Wyatt Langford is going to be a dark horse MVP candidate this year. You look at how wide open the AL is with the lack of Shohei Ohtani now. If Aaron Judge suffers an injury, who's left to win MVP in the AL? And I really think if Wyatt Langford really steps into this role as a hitter, because he's already so good with his speed and defense, I think he could be a dark horse MVP guy. Obviously, when he's on, you can get from Adolis Garcia as well. And now in the DH spot, you also potentially have Jock Peterson.
I was about to say, you talked about Wyatt Langford maybe DH, and you got to make room for Jock Peterson.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this because I also have the Rangers to win the West.
That's why I'm playing Wyatt Langford in left over Evan Carter, by the way, despite what the depth chart says. I think Wyatt Langford's a better overall player than Evan Carter. I think you saw it last season. It was not close.
Another guy that I really think you want to look out for in this team is Kumar Rocker. If he can stay healthy and kind of get some experience in the big leagues, I'm not saying to be a starter. Maybe if you're familiar with Keegan Thompson, he's started a lot of games for the Cubs. He's been a middle relief guy for the Cubs.
I think him and Jack Leiter both
kind of followed that role. I agree as well. Him and Jack Leiter, but look out for those two guys. And then you say it. I mean, if DeGrom gets hurt, which I hope does not happen, then one of those guys will have to fill in that role. I think it'll be Kumar Rocker. But if we see a whole year of Jacob DeGrom, I don't think there's a chance anybody contests the Rangers in this division.
I completely agree with that. The Astros have lost so much talent. The Mariners can't hit at all. They have a great rotation, but the Mariners flat cannot hit. And then Angels and the A's are the other two teams there. So on to the AL wild card now. I have the Orioles in my 4. We talked about the Orioles a lot. Young team, ton of power potential here. I'm a little bit worried about the rotation. You look at your top 4, Zach Eflin, Grayson Rodriguez, Charlie Morton, Dan Kramer. That does not scream division winner to me at the top of the rotation. And I think that combined with the youth of this team, I have them just missing on this division title this year. And then I have the Yankees right behind them. Like you mentioned, the Garrett Cole injury is huge. I know you still have the two great lefties, Carlos Rodon, Max Fried, and then Devin Williams brought in. You can use Luke Weaver in a little bit more natural long relief role that I think he would excel in. Brought in Fernando Cruz. They basically are taking the Reds bullpen over there in New York, but only the good ones. I'm worried about this lineup if Aaron Judge goes down. You have Paul Goldschmidt, but he's, like you mentioned with Salvador Perez, kind of getting up there in age. Don't know quite what you're going to get from him. Jazz Chisholm seems like kind of he's a catalyst type guy, but I don't know how consistent he's going to be able to be. Then you lose Gleyber
Streaky.
Torres to the Tigers. I think that is a lot of production that you're losing. Not sure if Anthony Volpe is going to be able to take that next step. Same with Jason Dominguez. And let's be honest, Jason Dominguez is a liability on defense.
Yeah.
And then you don't know what Cody Bellinger you're going to get. I feel like there's a lot of what-ifs on this Yankees team. So I have them as my second AL wild card, and I'm going to let you go through yours before I say my last one.
Okay, smart. I was going to suggest that just because I'm looking at who you chose. But I have the Yankees and the Red Sox filling in my first 2 wild card spots for the same reason you gave. I still think the Yankees. I think you get Cody Bellinger, kind of boost that lineup a little bit, as well as Max Fried. I think those 2 additions kind of just push them above the Red Sox, in my opinion. And then you have the Red Sox in my 5th spot. Then you have the Astros just kind of being there when the season ends to kind of cap off.
Someone has to be in the last wild card spot.
Yeah, so we both have all the top 3 teams that what we think will be the top 3 teams in the Central: the Yankees, Red Sox, Orioles making the playoffs. And then so that looks very similar. And then who is your last team to make the playoffs?
Welcome to the playoffs in 2025, the MLB postseason, the Athletics.
Yikes!
I am not kidding. I know no one's going to agree with this. Then that's absolutely fine because I think it's going to happen anyway. I think there was a lot of upside at the top of this rotation. Luis Severino, JP Sears, Jeffrey Springs, I all think are decent starters. And Mason Miller is a freak in the bullpen. Absolute dominance from him. I like Jose Leclerc. I like that addition as a setup man. There's depth in this bullpen too. I know it's not amazing depth, but Michael Otanez, Tyler Ferguson, TJ McFarland, I think you can all get solid stuff out of. And then this is, I think, a developing team with the hitting side that I think will make big leaps this year. Zach Galoff, I think, is a solid hitter already. Brent Rooker can tear the cover off the baseball. And keep in mind, they're playing in a minor league park this year. Yeah. I think Brent Rooker is another guy that could win AL MVP this season. I think he hits 40, maybe even 45 home runs in that ballpark this season. Tyler Soderstrom, you're hoping for a power improvement from him. The same thing with Shea Langeliers, who's been a solid hitter the past couple years anyway. Gio Urshela is a solid player at third base. I love the potential of Jacob Wilson at shortstop as a kind of kickstart guy for this lineup. Same thing as Zach Galoff. Then if you can get some more hitting out of J.J. Bleday. And then my breakout candidate of the year is on this A's team. It's their right fielder, Lawrence Butler. This is a guy who really started to come on at the end of last year, and I think he is going to be incredible this season. Can really do it all out in right field. Has a cannon of an arm, super fast player as well. I like the upside of this A's team. I think they are sneaky. And for the last AL wildcard spot this year, I think sneaky is really all you have to be.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be an incredible battle for this last spot between a bunch of amazing teams. I think if the A's can be consistent, take advantage of where they're playing this season, use the upside on this team, I think they have playoff upside. So I'm putting the Athletics in the postseason.
I don't know. We'll have to see. That'd be an incredible turnaround from last year. But before we move on to the National League, let's just name like our 1, 2, and 3 seeds from the division. I have the Rangers being the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Only because I think in that Central, it's going to be so tight, so competitive that they just won't have the wins to compete with that. So the Rangers being the 1 seed, Orioles 2, and then the Tigers in the Central being my 3 seed.
I have a little bit different logic than you. I have the Red Sox as the 1 seed because I think you're going to have to win so many games to win that AL East. Whoever wins that division will be the 1 seed. I have the Rangers as my 2. I still think they'll be very solid. And then the Royals as my 3, just because I think you're going to see the lowest win totals in both the Central divisions this year.
Yeah, I disagree. But we'll get to that now because now we're on the National League. We'll start with the National League East once again. I have the Mets. I know what you're thinking. Who are they striking out? Not a whole lot of people.
Who are they getting out, much less striking out?
It doesn't matter when you're outscoring.
Look at that rotation for 2 seconds and tell me who is good other than Kodai Senga.
Pete Alonso, Juan Soto.
Look at the rotation.
Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, Francisco Alvarez, Jeff McNeil. I think they're gonna just gonna out hit everybody. When they were winning last year and they're kind of up on the rise towards the end of the season last year, they were just outscoring people. They weren't really dominating, shutting people out. They're just out hitting people, outscoring people. I think that's what happens again this year. You added Juan Soto. You're only going to add run production there. That takes maybe the pressure off of Lindor, who had an MVP caliber year last year, and Alonso, and just kind of lets them kind of mold. You kind of saw this happen with the Dodgers and other teams when they go get one guy. Now you have a complete lineup. You don't just have to focus on getting Alonso and Lindor out and then go get the rest of the gang. Now you have to really pitch, and I think that pressure on the other team is just going to allow them to score a lot of runs this year.
Yeah, my issue is there are two juggernauts in this division that are not the New York Mets, and I have the Atlanta Braves coming out on top this year. I think there is no way this roster can be as injured and as bad as it was last season, and they still had a great record with that. So you look at this rotation, Chris Sale, incredible. Cy Young last season. Reynaldo Lopez, solid. I think there is potential for Spencer Schwellenbach to be the best pitcher on this team and maybe even NL Cy Young this season.
Even if Strider comes back pretty early?
Yes. This is a guy that can throw 6 or 7 pitches, all with pinpoint accuracy. And if you watched him the back half of last season, was disgusting.
Yeah.
I love the upside of Schwellenbach. And then you know about this lineup. Sean Murphy, Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Acuna coming back. I wish Marcell Ozuna was not on this team so they could afford to DH Acuna. Because at this point, I would be worried about playing him in the field. But you have the Jerkson Profar injury, which is a bit of a bummer, but still you'll get him back. Michael Harris, and then Jared Kelenic has improved as well. You mentioned the Mets being able to out-hit everyone. I think the Braves are also able to out-hit everyone, and they also have pitching. So I don't see how the Mets are ever going to be better than the Braves or even the Phillies over the course of a full season.
I just think the Braves' run production is going to lack in the outfield severely this year. I don't think their outfield produces as much runs as they have been.
They had a dead fish playing in left field for most of last year, and they added Jerks and Profar, and you think they get worse?
I think Acuna will just struggle. I mean, he's torn both ACLs. I don't think it's going to be a bad outing for him, but he's not going to be the Acuna
There's
and
no
love.
way this lineup can get worse than it was last year. Matt Olson had a career worst year. Austin Riley really struggled.
No. The infield's going to be great. I think the outfield will take a hit from what we've seen the last 3 years. Not specifically last year.
I think the entire outfield could hit 0, and this team would still win this division.
I mean, I have them close. I have them in the wild card. Okay. They're very close. Very close.
I think this team is too good if they stay even remotely healthy to not win the division. But on to the Central. It's the Cincinnati Reds for me. I think we all saw that coming. This team, it's a lot of the same upside I talked about last year before the entire pitching staff got hurt. And I mean that literally as possible. The only pitcher that did not miss significant time, I think, was Nick Martinez. Everyone else missed significant time for the Reds. Hunter Green is your ace. You've brought in Brady Singer to be another solid pitcher. You have Carson Spires, who's a decent long relief guy. Rhett Lauder coming up through the system. Chase Burns, Nick Lodolo. So much pitching talent on this team. And then you look at the lineup. Tyler Stevenson is injured. Spencer Steer is injured. Both of those guys will be coming back, but still, Jeimer Candelario is a good hitter. I love Matt McClain. Matt McClain, I think, their rookie season was a better player than Ellie De La Cruz. Ellie is better now, but their first season when they were both up, Matt McClain was out-hitting Ellie, and it was not particularly close. A healthy Matt McClain makes a huge difference for this Reds team. Obviously, Ellie is developing year by year. This is a superstar potential guy. You brought in Austin Hayes to play left. I think that's a big plus addition. TJ Friel is your rock-solid leadoff guy that you've been relying on. And then Jake Fraley is a decent enough player out in right. And I think this year, Christian Encarnacion Strand not having to play with a broken hand is going to really make a difference. I think he, at Great American, has 30 home run upside potentially. So I think this team is really built well. It's a very deep team. There's talent everywhere. I think it's going to be between the Reds and the Cubs for this division, which means the Brewers will win it somehow. But I'm really looking forward to this battle. I know you're a Cubs fan. I think it's going to be between our two teams. I have to back my guys. I think the Reds get it done over the course of the full season.
Yeah, I took the other team you mentioned. Not even just for backing my guys. I think this is the smart choice for the Central this year. They added. You saw when they were playing their best baseball last year, they were one of the best teams in baseball.
Yeah.
And then they just added Cal Tucker. Whoop-de-doo. I mean, if he does even just a little better than what you got from Bellinger last year, that's enough in my opinion. But you also have Michael Busch, who's one of the most consistent hitting first basemen in the league. Nico Horner will start on the IL, but he'll work his way back, and he's a 285 hitter.
Yeah.
Very consistent.
I'm worried about the back end of your bullpen.
Yes, the bullpen is an issue that they kind of tried to address in the offseason.
Ryan Presley is not good.
Exactly. They tried to address in the offseason, didn't. Hopefully the pitching can go deep. We saw at the end of last year, the starters were very good at going deep. Justin Steele went deep, had a lot of shutouts going to the 7th, 8th inning. Imanaga, second year in the league, you saw the incredible things he did last year. Hopefully he can go deep. I think Tyen's going to have a better year than a lot of people are thinking. He'll be able to go deep. He's an older guy, veteran. And I just think Ian Happ's going to be the best hitter in baseball for a period of 3 to 4 weeks.
No, Ian Happ's going to be the best hitter in baseball whenever he plays the Reds. That's what's going to happen.
But yeah, so that'll add to that 3 to 4 weeks because he just tends to do that.
I don't know why. It's so annoying. I hate him.
I think one of the worst offensive hitters on this team will probably be Dansby Swanson. I mean, he struggled last year a little bit.
I'll tell you who I'm excited to watch, and it's not because of hitting whatsoever, is Pete Crow.
Oh, I was getting to next. Pete Crow will lead the league in stolen bases, I think, by maybe 8. At least.
I think Ellie leads the league in stolen bases because I think Ellie's going to be on base more than Pete Crow Armstrong. I think Pete Crow Armstrong is going to fall victim to Billy Hamilton disease. It's not going to be quite that bad, but I think he might struggle to get on a bit. But that's what I love about these two teams. You look at these rosters together; they are so even in so many spots. Obviously, you take Kyle Tucker by far over anyone in the Reds outfield, but I think you also take Ellie De La Cruz over pretty much anyone in the Cubs infield. So these teams are so evenly matched. A lot of the same problems with bullpen vulnerability. Obviously, you never know what you're going to get from Alexis Diaz on the Reds side. Sometimes he's locked down, sometimes he's BP, and it's not fun. But looking forward to the Central. I think it's going to be really fun. Now, in the NL West, the Dodgers. Next.
Yep. But in the order I have them, I have the Dodgers number 1 overall seed.
Same.
I had the Central being the second best division this year.
Interesting.
For a lot of the same reasons, I had the Orioles being second. I just think the Mets, Braves, and Phillies are going to be very close.
I have the Braves as the 2 seed.
And the Mets as 3.
Yeah, I have the Braves as the 2 seed, and then I have the Reds as the 3. But on to the wild cards now. I have the Phillies as my 4. I think it's going to come right down to the end of the year with the Braves and the Phillies. These are 2 of the best teams in baseball. I love the upside of this Phillies rotation with Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. I would love to see Andrew Painter finally have his breakout season, finally not hurt. And then we know about this Phillies lineup led by Bryce Harper. I think they're going to be absolutely incredible. Then I have the Mets as my 5th seed. I love the Mets lineup. I completely agree. The Mets are going to hit bombs.
Yeah.
They have no one to pitch. Edwin Diaz is cool. You look at the starters. Kodai Senga, great. Their second listed starter on the depth chart is former Yankees closer Clay Holmes.
But if the division's as close as we think it is, there's a trade deadline, and all you need is one good arm to boost you up 3 to 4 games.
Jacob DeGrom again.
Boost you up 3 to 4 games and go get that.
I don't see how the Mets get it done with this pitching staff personally. And then my final team in the postseason for the NL, my 6th seed, is the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think this is the most underrated rotation in baseball. Corbin Burns, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez, Brandon Pfaadt was great for last year, and then you have Jordan Montgomery if he rebounds. That's a stacked rotation.
Yeah.
I think it is very good. The bullpen is an issue. The bullpen is a big problem. I think you're going to need some development from Justin Martinez. He can throw gas. It moves like crazy. If he can find some control, I think he has closer potential. But this lineup, too, I like the Garrett Hampson addition. Obviously, you know what you're getting from Ketel Marte. I think Corbin Carroll is a big bounce-back candidate this season. You have the power of Eugenio Suarez. This is a solid team, and I think they are built better overall than the Padres, who is my first team I have missing. I think these are going to be 2 streaky teams, but for whatever reason, this core that the Padres have with Machado and Tatis, they're hurt a lot, and then when they're not hurt, the vibes are never good. I don't know how to explain it. It feels like the Padres are they never have vibes.
Yeah.
And I feel like, to a certain extent, that matters. And the rotation, I think, is better for the D-backs. I know that might sound crazy because Padres have Dylan Cease, they have Yu Darvish, they have Joe Musgrove. But I like this Diamondbacks team. I think they're good enough to get the 6th seed.
Yeah, I have the Braves as my 4th seed, just missing out underneath the Mets. I do think their rotation is going to be very solid this year, and they are going to put up numbers. Then I have the Padres sliding in behind them. I'm glad you mentioned the 3 guys I was going to mention: Musgrove, Darvish, and Cease. If you can lean on those guys and then just play like you did the end of the year last year, you talk about vibes. Their vibes were very high at the end of the year last year. They were probably the most consistent team in baseball.
Yeah, like the only 3 weeks where no one was hurt.
But hey, I mean, that's just baseball. If you stay healthy and you have a core,
When has Fernando Tatis ever stayed healthy?
if you stay healthy and have a core, then you can do it. And I'm looking at this team like they're healthy. So that's what I'm going to go with now. I have the Padres in my 5th seed, and the Phillies, who I think are better than the Padres, but just because they're going to be cannibalized in that division.
Yeah, that's a beat-up division for sure.
I
Both
have them in
East
the
divisions
6th.
this year are just gauntlets.
Yeah.
But MLB standings predictions, that is done. You know our postseason, what we think is going to happen. Everyone tell me in the comments that I'm wrong about the Athletics. I cannot wait to hear it. I've been bracing for those
And the
comments
Reds.
for about a week now.
And the Reds. How about
Yeah,
the Reds?
people aren't going to like the Reds pick either, but it is what it is. We'll find out. But next week, we will recap the Tokyo series between the Cubs and the Dodgers. We will also have preseason awards predictions for MVP, Rookie of the Year, all that kind of stuff. But that is it for your first GTD baseball episode of 2025.
So happy.
Super excited
So happy.
baseball's back. I love baseball season, and
Love baseball.
I'm glad we're back in it. So if you want to see motorsports, all that stuff is out already. We have NASCAR, recap from Vegas predictions will be out, F1, recapping Australia, and getting ready for China's out as well. But this has been baseball, and we'll see you guys for more next week.